Hey buddies, welcome to Mass Games. My name is Simon. This is a bit of a quieter recording because I'm using one microphone between two of us and that's still to be worked on. So just remember to lower down the volume however you're listening to this afterwards. I'm here with Dave. I mentioned before about having other gamers on the channel too, and we've just had a game of Micro Dojo, who he kindly gave it to me, and we've had a quick game of that. It ended very close with a 7-5 result. So over to you, David. Please let me know how you got into gaming, and I've got lots of questions to ask you. I haven't given you any kind of preparation. Keep it on the fly. Let me know your thoughts.
Hi everyone, and I think I first started gaming through like the Games Workshop and the sort of like Warhammer 40k games, following my older brother who's 3 years older than me, and sort of like sitting at the table while the older kids were playing and getting a feel of the games, and then trying to devise my own armies to try and like decimate them and sort of play the catch up. And yeah, so went through quite a few of the Games Workshop games. Myself, I really enjoyed Necromunda as well. That was probably the best one that was released late 90s. And then got into card games, Magic the Gathering the first time around, and then Babylon 5 TCG was big when I was at university. And then sort of I had a bit of a hiatus from gaming, probably for about 10 years. And then got back into it when just like social play, like friends were coming around and we sort of like cracked open some board games. And in the last probably 5 years, I've got really heavily into board gaming, where I'll probably on average buy 2 games a month and numerous sort of like card game expansions and massive amounts of Pokemon cards to play with my boys. But yeah, I just enjoy gaming, especially I'd say more card games than board games. But any game with a lot of strategy and some intense like back and forth is good. You never want to know who the winner is after the first round. And
Agreed.
if you have some way of catching up, either inbuilt or through tactics or teaming up against the winner, it's always fun.
Cool. So I mentioned when you first arrived about a video I was watching in terms of learning a game to do with epic card game duels, and he mentioned GenCon, and obviously we had briefly mentioned about this before. Check out any videos and stuff coming out. What is your familiarity with GenCon? About obviously a large gaming convention, and is it a place you're thinking about going to? What's your knowledge of GenCon?
I've never been. I've never really wanted to go at the moment. Sometimes I watch the sort of like the releases, the big sort of like glitzy production value that they put in. I know for game producers, sometimes it's a bit dry because bless their souls, they're not ones to speak to crowds. They're better at probably designing the games and selling them. But for me, I do enjoy going to UK Games Expo. And I think having the local travel is easier because obviously flying to Midwest and then like having the jet lag on the way back, you need to dedicate a full week to it. We don't know. Maybe in the future I might go across. There isn't anything really that stands out for me this year that I need to go for. And I think we've been burnt a few times recently where our favourite games get laid by the wayside as the new hotness comes through.
Yep.
So I'm trying not to jump on the bandwagon of anything just yet.
Cool. So what have you been playing recently? What have you been up to?
So we've been playing board games, quite a few in the last couple of weeks. I think we were playing Oath last week.
Yep.
And we got in, it was Dune Imperium as well.
Yep.
That's an amazing game, one of my favourites of all time. And before that, we've been doing, I've done a lot of Ticket to Ride with my kids.
Oh, great.
Monopoly, obviously, it's a great game to pass the time, and you can just like leave it to one side and hopefully they forget about it. But Moonrakers, another one from Titan, the Titan box that we opened a few weeks back, and I got my copy of Clank back from you, so I've been doing a single player Clank Catacombs exploration.
Cool. And what have you played the most, would you say?
The most single game?
Most played, yeah, or
Keyforge.
Keyforge, there we go.
TCG, yeah. So Keyforge came out in November 2018. I went to the London pre-release, so I had my deck early, and I just got caught by the bug. So yeah, I've probably played Keyforge. I haven't played as much this year, but I own over like 350 decks.
Wow.
And I've got another 40 arriving on a ship from
oh my goodness,
the US very soon.
Is that's the new version?
Yeah, the new well, they redo. So it's Winds of Exchange, which is coming out anytime soon in Europe. The US have already got their decks from the Kickstarter, and It's going on retail release, I think, is September. So obviously buying in the shops, you should be able to see decks in the middle of late September. And there's going to be some pre-release events going on at your local game shop, hopefully. If not, get in touch and they'll reach out to the distributors.
So Soulforge, I'm not as familiar with, but I'm aware that you've either ran tournaments or you've helped to...
No, we just have a weekly games event on Mondays at Eclectic Games in Reading. There's about 4 of us who turn up semi-frequently. It's not really taken on, and it's a nice game. It's not a main game. It's probably like a secondary or third, a good time filler. Each deck is... half your deck is unique. So you combine the 2 half decks to make your deck that you're going to play. It is a back and forward kind of game, and there is some catch up, which is good, but it's quite heavy on the math, and you only have 2 cards out of 5 you play every turn, or every round basically. So you are having to make the best decision with limited resource, and the games are often quite tight, coming down to 1 or 2 card plays and getting the right card at the right time. But you can't really customize your decks very much, and I know there's a bigger scene in London, and a lot of regions are selling their boosters at amazing prices just to get rid of their stock. I think a lot of shops are failing to find players, especially in the northwest. So I've got quite a few booster boxes unopened that I managed to get at quite a good deal.
Cool. And speaking about other conventions, just coming back for a second, I know that we mentioned Essen, or Spiel Essen as it's officially known now as. I know the person who I'm travelling with, supposedly they've actually just booked their ferry, as I'm looking to get there earlier for some of the media stuff and staying a bit later to just experience the after party, should there be such a thing occur. You have any familiarity much with Essen Spiel Essen, and what it's about, and anything there that might particularly excite you? I'm aware you weren't able to make UK Games Expo this year.
Yeah, so I think travel for me is kind of limited and based around family holidays and planning where the kids are going. So I definitely wouldn't take kids to Essen. I think from what I've heard, and I haven't been there, so it's just secondhand anecdotal evidence, that it's more for the designers and the showing of the games rather than the players and playing the games. There's going to be some debuts, maybe some new games that have been just early stage releases. For me, it's probably not urgent. Like I wouldn't rush to go to these big expos because, again, it's like you can see it early, you can get to play it early, but then you might not be able to play it with your friends there. It might be like time consumed, like you're trying to fit a lot in, especially over 2 days. And the time goes by very quickly. So I'd much prefer buying a game, sitting down, playing with friends or people I know, enjoying, like, understanding, getting into the game, finding a strategy, foiling your arch nemesis, etc., etc. And in those small demo games that they offer you, like a sneak peek, I don't think you get enough into it. Like, you can see if it's something you'd enjoy, but you could get the same from probably like a quick video on YouTube. MS Games is quite good for that.
So I know that Asmodee, particularly in the UK, are more focused based on their new owners, that you get 30 minutes of trying out a game and that's it, and luckily they don't enforce it too much. But over in Spiel Essen, there's a lot of tables to sit at. You know, you get lots of games played, but they can be a bit of a queue, but you get it everywhere. There is no open gaming. However, you get games in the daytime. They're generally cheaper than the UK or other places. They are the first place to be released. There's over 2,000 new releases every year, and you just play them in the evenings. So it's the same kind of thing, and generally speaking, I know some people at UK Games Expo saying, why on earth am I spending time at this gaming table, obviously off to the side, when I could be exploring what they have more effectively by, professional demonstrators or whatever it might be. So speaking about a number of games you've already mentioned, ones that you love and enjoy a lot, but what about games that you think you're most proud of? Which ones do you think, I really enjoyed showing this off to somebody, or I just really enjoyed playing it, or maybe had a great experience, a great win at a game, or just a memorable game in general for some reason, something that was just funny or something?
I think there's one game that I've got, which is Waddington's Buccaneer. I think it was printed in the 1950s, so it's like really, really old, very delicate pieces. It's a game we often get out at Christmas time to play with my family. I would love to show that off, but obviously it is an old, very, very tattered rule book. But it's a very simple game without being overly complex. You just have to collect 7 treasures in your port and you win. but you can battle your opponents. You can grab crew from the salt flat island, and yeah, it's quite a unique game, and definitely one that probably wouldn't be in many people's collections.
Okay. I sometimes ask slightly different questions to each person I'm speaking to. So if you've seen the YouTube channel, there are some like designers and board game owners who have told me about games they've been involved with, or something that they've ultimately wished they'd made or published. Is there anything there that obviously we could talk about, some money spinners out there, but anything that you wish that, if you had a publishing arm, you would like to have done this, or bring a game back to life? Obviously we do get restoration games and stuff doing those things as well.
Yeah, I think obviously with the Ghost Galaxy reinvigorating the Keyforge community, that would be amazing if we can restart, at least getting to the point where we have like regular meetups. I think that was a game that was so good, it was so hot, it was tipped for greatness, and FFG just let it slip. And I know there was obviously some kind of some malware going on that's prevented them from getting to their algorithm, whether it was deliberate or not. But either way, a company needs to protect its assets, and they absolutely failed in that respect. And yeah, I think it might bring new gamers in. It's very easy to get a play game. It's not complex, and it's not got a heavy buy-in. It's like one deck and you can go. Hopefully it'll take off again. Although the TCG market's going to be very, very crowded. Like Disney Lorcana's launching.
Yep.
I'm going to avoid that just because it is just going to be a potential huge money pit.
Yep.
And if my kids get any whiff of that, then I'm done. So yeah, that'll be their college funds going out the door. But in terms of new games, I've actually got a credit in the Sinister Fish game Streets for nice. my proofreading of their rulebook. So I'm very proud about that. Got my name in bold text.
Yeah, now of course David's backing more of their games I'm aware of as well. So in terms of the various games that you've played, is there anything you've not bought or not had a chance to experience, or in some way had a regret about, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd gone for extra expansion? Or for example, I know I think Post Malone just spent $2 million on the One Ring card. Do you ever think that, do you know what, there's a company there, I could have got the first edition of that when it first kickstarted, or whatever it might be? I don't know if that's ever crossed your mind.
Well, I was a Netrunner player, sort of like 2013, 2014, and I've got quite a few of the original expansions, but then I kind of stopped, and that's one thing I regret, because now when you look on the secondary market to try and get these later packs, it's like it's hundreds of pounds, like for cards that would have retailed at like $12.50 as a pack, and now it's like 60 quid for a pack. It's like, obviously it's limited, and some people are just selling off their collections in one massive go. One of the sort of like scenario packs, if you will, it's like a big box, is going for over like 300 quid, and if it's sealed then it's like 800 quid. It's absolutely crazy how much people are willing to pay. And the fact is, there's still loads of Netrunner players who are actually, or maybe they're collectors, just trying to buy them. And it does annoy me that I could have just waited my time and bought them in when they were RRP. But it's one of the things. Now I've got a couple of living card games on the go where I don't play them anymore, like Marvel Champions. I've got all the expansions so far for that.
Oh wow!
I haven't played it in 2 years, and it's sitting there waiting to be.
Vision. It is harder to get into. It is. That's a problem I found. It's got some great parts to it. Obviously those schemes and stuff like that. Obviously beautiful looking. Obviously cartoony as it is. Illustrations, which is really good. So I know you're very much into deck building in particular. What do you think you'd like to see more of? Is that, well, you just want to see more deck building games, or is there another mechanism that you're really exploring that in general, or maybe something different? Maybe there's an IP that you just want to say, no, I want to get more into seeing that if I can.
I think I've just gravitated more towards deck building games from my card game background. And if there's a game that involves sort of your worker placement and deck building, then it's always going to be a good thing. I'll enjoy playing that. I don't know, maybe there needs... I mean, we did a roll and write the other day, Fleet, was it?
Oh, we did, yeah, Fleet the Dice game.
And that was really good because it was a total change of pace, something that I normally wouldn't be too interested in. Mm-hmm. But anything with dice is always like that RNG element. But yeah, it was quite good. It was like a 20-minute, 30-minute play. It was very, very nice.
And they got some the expansions, the mini expansion that works it is actually really good. The advanced game, whereby there's some scoring objectives. It's a very smooth play. and I highly recommend it. It's you can definitely give that.
So maybe like a roll and write with the cards. You actually write your own cards.
Okay.
And then you can add abilities to them, make them super strong, and then if they get killed, you have to rip them up.
Interesting.
That would be amazing. Although it wouldn't sell because people would. It's like a legacy game.
You never know. Maybe reset packs and stuff like that. So now we're getting into the realms of maybe a publishing house. So would you ever consider that? Is there a name you'd like to call your publishing house? Do you ever consider that? Obviously, whether it be a board game cafe or more in the ilk of a way in which you'd like to have buy the rights to some game and re-release it, something that you liked.
I don't know how much I would enjoy doing that. Ultimately, I enjoy playing games. I probably wouldn't have the patience to develop and to streamline and to make it all work. I think you just have to be very sort of focused and dedicated, and maybe I just enjoy the casual side of it more.
Cool.
And in terms of like a publishing house, I don't know, but maybe something. I mean, there's one publisher, Earthborn Games, out of the US, which is headed by Andrew Navarro, formerly FFG, and they're mainly looking at sustainable sourcing for their cards and their products, and localized distribution methods. And those are kind of things that we should be focusing on in terms of sustainability. So it's not just about getting all of those lovely minis that look absolutely fabulous on the table. It's like, where do they come from? What's the supply chain? Are they biodegradable? Are they like having a high impact on obviously carbon footprint? And are the materials going to be potentially toxic in the future? Those are the kind of things that I would be more focused on than having a sort of like a mass market gaming.
Okay. So after that somber note, which I do completely agree with, can you ever think of a funniest board game moment or any form of something or other where, I don't know, maybe you haven't had one yet, and we can talk about another episode, but anything you thought, that was a funny play, or it was interesting, even in Microzoja, obviously, having to then play a move, like, but now you've done that, and it's like, okay, but you've doubled up, or anything you just found in general memorable?
I think the most fun game I've played in the last couple of years was Taco Cat.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's like every hand is just crazy, and once someone starts giggling or laughing, it's contagious and it spreads around the whole table.
Yep. So the more videos for that, obviously, search or Google Mass Games Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. So now the opposite, the most stressful moment. If you'd be like, I really need to do this, or someone's hate drafted me, or someone has just king made, or have you ever experienced that, or are you just more mellow?
Well, I think I was hate drafting against you when we played Moon Michelle's the other week.
That was horrendous.
But yes. I could just see what you were trying to do, so I could just step in the way.
Yeah.
And that's why having like that singular like pass to the left, it never really works.
I thought that was a big shame about that.
Yeah, unfortunately,
and what about most memorable in general? Is there anything that you think, I'm really enjoying every time we play a game with a certain, I don't know what it is, maybe a certain mechanism or just a certain game in general that you find, those ones always bring back, like for example for me, maybe Dead of Winter might have that, but I don't know if there's anything you've come across.
I don't know. I always used to enjoy playing Mousetrap with my brothers, which is like an MB Games. I think they've redone it, it's a lot more fancy now, but back in the day where it's literally like the little zigzag
Heath Robinson,
the little patterns, and you had to like drop them out of the cage. And we played on the table, so if any point one of my brothers would be winning, we could just nudge the table a little bit to put off one of the slightly balanced marbles, set it off, and then it ding, 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 ding. Before you know it, the boot's gone through and they're kicked off the board.
Anti-tilt board game table.
Exactly. You'd need to have like pressure sensitive and like no one come within 2 meters while I'm rolling the dice type of thing.
So I do know somebody with that game who I hopefully will be able to get a video for the channel as well. If you were to, obviously with your Kickstarter add-ons that you may well pick, and I know you have picked some in the past, is there a certain game component that for you is a must-have, or something that you like, I really would like to have that in there? And maybe you can double-header this with, if someone was interested in a game, or if you wanted a publisher to say, look, this is what you're going to get out of it, this is what the community wants. So is there anything that you go like, it must have, I don't know, wooden pieces, plastic, I don't know if you have a preference over the two, something that comes with their sleeves maybe? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I avoid plastic if possible. But like if it was sort of wood, reclaimed wood, or some kind of alloy, for example, like pewter is very easy to source recyclable metal, and you could have like a heavy figure that has presence on the board without it being sort of like 3D printed or something for whatever reason. But yeah, for me, it all depends on the game. It's like, what do you want the game to be? Is it visually stimulating? Are the pieces going to stand out like 3D or high on the board to give it a bit more character and depth? In terms of the cards, are they going to be holographic? Are they going to have some kind of visual effect on them to make them stand out when you hold them? Card sleeves. How many card sleeves do we need? Because again, you need to obviously make sure that if you're building a game, any kind of game with cards, I always sleeve it. I don't know why, I'm always sleeving, and so I try and use the same sleeves on each game. And then obviously if they're irregular shaped cards, or if there's a large shaped cards, you have to then go and find, well, how do you find the sleeves there? So obviously Oath did their own custom sleeves, which is very useful because they have small, medium and larger cards in the box, and there's a few spares, but they haven't done any expansions. But yeah, sleeves for games.
So I know there's more games we're playing. So I'm playing Undaunted Normandy, Undaunted Stalingrad. I'm going to teach for that because that's got deck building in it too. There's that prototype for that game which won't take long. We can go through. I don't think I have time for Epic Duels, but that's pretty much a wrap for now. Obviously there's another intro, so in future there might be another topic in particular. As always, join the guild and let me know your thoughts, and there's plenty of other videos coming as well, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts on everything over there. Now, aside from that, obviously join over on Facebook for discussion, on Instagram over 3,000 posts, over 3,900 followers, and of course daily videos as mentioned before on YouTube. But for now, back to the table.